It's Christmas week on Flickering Dreams, and we've got some very un-Christmassy films to review this week. We've got the monster movie Godzilla Minus One. We've got the gritty homosexual thriller Femme. We've got watery goings-on in Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, the latest Aardman animation. And finally, a quirky, different sort of sci-fi film, The Shift. That's all on Flickering Dreams. So, hello and welcome to another edition of Flickering Dreams. You might have noticed it's Christmas, and this is our last Christmas podcast. And last podcast before Christmas, last nightmare before Christmas, or something like that. And you might have noticed we have a new face on the podcast this week. So, by way of introduction, Dan Cook.
Hi there.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah. And where people can find your reviews.
Hi there. My name's Dan. I'm from Dudley in the West Midlands in the UK. And if you want to read any of my reviews, you can go to Dan Cook Movie Reviews on Facebook. I've got a page there, or you can follow me on Letterboxd at DC Movie Reviews.
Excellent. Well, welcome. And
Thank you very much.
Scott, do you want to introduce yourself again for listeners?
Yeah, so my name is Scott Forbes, and you can find my reviews on the Forbes Film and TV Review on Facebook.
Very good. Emma?
I'm Emma Sewell, and you can find me on social media platforms as Emma at the Movies.
And finally, the good Reverend Andrew.
Well, my name's Andy, and I write reviews for Sorted Magazine. I review films on Connect Radio, and I help run the Mark Commode Appreciation Society on Facebook.
And I'm Bob Mann. I run One Man's Movies, and I'm also a film reviewer on BBC Radio Solent. So, there's five of us. We've never had five before. That's like 5 times opportunity for the podcast platform to fail on us. So, anything could happen in the next half hour, as they used to say in Stingray. Before any of your times, apart from Andy and me, I suspect.
Yeah.
I used to have a Stingray.
The godfather to this group.
Did you? Oh, good on
man.
you. I
Good
like
man.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did.
Okay. We're going to start tonight by looking at a good old monster movie, and this is Godzilla Minus One. And in Godzilla Minus One, it's Japan in 1945, and Koichi, a cowardly, or as some might say, sensible kamikaze pilot, has landed his plane on Odo Island to repair it. But then the garrison is attacked by a fearsome creature that the locals call Godzilla. Here's a clip.
我々しかこの国の未来を切り開くことはできない。
あの怪物の生態は未知のことが多すぎて。
So that's Godzilla, and I think as Dan is new on the block, he should get the honours of being the first to comment on his views about Godzilla.
So I have been a Godzilla fan for a very, very long time. I grew up with watching a lot of them on VHS. And whenever Scott writes a review, because I follow him on Facebook, and he writes a Godzilla review, I'm always at loggerheads with him because I always love them. I've seen all of them from the 1954 film through the Heisei, the Showa, Heisei, Millennium, the Legendary Verse, the Roland Emmerich 1998 film. I think this is the best Godzilla film by quite some distance. It used to be, for me, the best, in my opinion, was Gareth Edwards' 2014 reboot that he did for Warner Brothers. The thing that this film gets for me so right is that what so other monster movies forget is that balance between characterization and destruction. And the way that the director has made this film, he's clearly owing a debt to the Ishiro Honda film from 1954. There's also quite a lot of Jaws in there as well, and Jaws is my favorite film. So anytime there's any kind of visual or audio reference to Jaws, I'll be all on it. But it's the thing that's so great about it, not just the destruction scenes, which are incredible, but the emotional impact of the film, I think, is what really keeps Godzilla Minus One in the very, very high ranks of the series. When I saw the film in the cinema, it was the first time I'd been to the cinema in over 2 years. So I was very, very much looking forward to seeing the film in the cinema, and it lived up to everything I could have wanted and so much more. And as soon as I saw the film, it shot to my top favourite film of the year. It overtook Talk to Me, which was my favourite film up until that point. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and I think even people who don't know the mythology of Godzilla or really care about it, I'm looking at you, Scott. I'm looking at you. I'm really hoping that people get something from this, because I think this is an absolutely spectacular monster movie that does everything right that so many other American films have tried to do and failed quite badly.
Very good. Okay. An expert on the panel. That's good. Scott, as you're not an expert on Godzilla, what did you make of it?
Yeah, so as Dan has commented, in the past, I have not been a great fan of Godzilla films. The character itself, I find quite frustrating, and the movies have generally been quite boring. I don't think the ones that I've seen have served the human characters very well, which I feel like you need to balance the monster stuff with the human stuff. And so, yeah, I've been very disappointed so far. I watched Godzilla Minus One, and I absolutely loved it.
Woo!
Yeah.
So for me, exactly. There we go. I've been converted. I thought that this one did get the balance right. So the monster stuff with going around the cities, destroying it, everything getting blown up, it was all really good. The action worked for what it was. But I loved this film because it got the human stuff right. We've got our lead character who is facing shame and trauma. There's a lot of guilt going on there. This is set in just after World War II, and we see that families are broken, people are broken, and we get to see people find families and get that emotional connection with people uniting in terrible situations. And it made me just feel for the character, and I cared about him and the people around him as well. He has some friends that are smart and also some good comic relief in there as well. And so that brought stakes. A lot of these other films, I didn't care about the humans, so I didn't really care what happened to them. This one, I cared about the people, and so when there was an actual threat, it made me feel nervous, and I wanted to know how they were going to get through it. On top of that, a lot of this film is about building up how the people are going to stop Godzilla. And I thought it was really clever the way they took their time, but it never got boring. It was like a heist movie in a way, where you see sometimes they'll build their way through what they're going to do before they eventually do it. And I felt like they did that a lot of the time in this movie. As Dan says, there is references to other things like Jaws. I got a little bit of Grave of the Fireflies in there a little bit too. So for me, yeah, I was very surprised. The score, it's quite a classic score from some of the older movies that Dan's a fan of. I felt it sort of incorporated that style of music, which I think worked. The visuals were a bit hit and miss. Some of it was amazing. There were sometimes I was looking at some of the water being like, they could have done better with that. But
it's worth remembering that the budget of this film was $15 million, right?
Was it?
I
didn't realize it was that low.
$15 million. So I think what they did with the budget was pretty amazing, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize what the budget was. Keeping that in mind, that's very impressive then. Yeah, so despite my previous history with the character, this is a film that's converted me.
Good stuff. Emma, have you got anything to add?
I'm very much the same. I have watched every single one, absolutely love it, and quite honestly, it's probably where my love of all monster movies came from, having watched, all the originals. If you had told me going into this that this was in the original lineup of movies, I wouldn't have doubted you.
Mhm.
I thought it worked really well. It just, everything about it just captured the look and feel of a classic Godzilla monster movie to me. And like you say, the actual backstory to characters, which you never get these days in monster movies. And I really appreciated the fact that you were getting them rebuilding their sort of home after the war, because it helped with the pace, which I have an issue with in a few films recently, where I just don't quite know the time span of things, and that bothers me. And this, it really helped it flow.
Yeah, but
Really enjoyed it.
It was really quite extraordinary, the length of time from when you first saw Godzilla to the next time you had any monster in the film. And that was really quite extraordinary, I thought.
That's really keeping in with the tradition of old Godzilla movies, though.
Yeah.
You'd get a shot of him right at the beginning. Okay. Oh yeah, I mean even the case with Jaws or the host, Bong Joon-ho's film. You see the monster right at the beginning, and then you do have a good length of time before you see the monster again. So yeah, that's just movie monster magic 101, I think, really.
Okay, all right. Any more, Emma?
No, I think the guys summed it up really well. I just, I do love, just violent, nonsensical monster movies, but this really took me back to classic Godzilla, and just wonderful.
Good. Andy?
I mean, everybody summed it up beautifully. One of the frustrations of writing for a magazine like Sorted is a thing called deadlines. And I came out frustrated because I'd already submitted my top 10 of the year, an article about my top 10 of the year, and I wished I could have it back to include Godzilla because it shot straight into my top 10 of the year. I think the guys have summed it up beautifully. I love the characterizations, love the story, love the fact that there are those moments when we don't see Godzilla, but we're building and something good is coming. Love the references to Jaws and the other film that Scott mentioned there. I particularly enjoyed the score. I've downloaded it, listened to it through several times since I've seen the film. And I've always had a soft spot for Godzilla because he's that much nastier than, say, Kong. Kong is just too nice for a monster, whereas Godzilla is Godzilla. And I really loved it. Yeah, in my top 10 of the year.
Okay,
awesome.
Great. I mean, I normally absolutely hate these films. I will often not go and see a film about Godzilla or Kong or Transformers. I put them in the same boat, just vacuous, pointless characters fighting CGI creatures where there's no sense of peril or anything to do with them, let alone Kong versus Godzilla, which, what is the point? Who are you rooting for in that? For this one, I have to say I went in with a very negative attitude and got immediately turned around. Just as you say, by the actual sense of character building and the actual way in which it actually built its story. I thought it was very, very clever, putting effectively the guilt of the Japanese about the war and about how useless Japanese bureaucracy was and how the people had to get together to actually try and come up with a solution. I thought that was all terrific. And
the political element was really good, particularly when they involved the Russians. And given everything that had happened post-war, I thought that was brilliant storytelling, very good scripting, actually.
I thought it was.
You could think you were watching a real film, at times a documentary about a monster invading Japan, and it had that documentary feel like to it at times, which I thought was exceptionally good. Yeah,
good. And as you say, the Jaws references, I thought that boat chase near the beginning of the film,
best in the film.
I kept thinking of the orca and the three-barrel chase in Jaws, absolutely. And the music, the way in which the music and the use of slow-mo in the film, some of those scenes, some to complete silence, like towards the end of the film, I thought had such epic proportions to the film. I was just very, very surprised by it. My only criticism of the film was there was some variable use of extras in it. Some of the destruction of Ginza, you had loads and loads of people around, but at the beginning of the film where you had the battleship, there was about 10 crewmen lined up in a row who were kind of running from side to side, like in the old Star Trek original series, right? As the monster attacked, these 10 people on the deck were going like this and this, and I thought that somewhat let the quality of the effects down to a degree. But that was my only criticism. I mean, scores on the doors. I gave this one an 8, but that's just because I don't give greater than 8 very often. Emma?
It's a 10 from me.
10.
I had no complaints.
Okay, 18. Andy?
9.
18. 27. Scott?
I'm a 9 as well.
36. And Dan?
And I'm a 10 as well. I just want to also say, not to give any spoilers, that beginning point on Odo Island, that was the Jurassic Park sequel I'd always wanted to see, and that we never got.
Yes. Yes. You're
Good
not
point.
wrong. So that's a total. Oh my word! This is going to challenge my maths tonight with 5. That is 40.
Oops.
Whoa, Andy, your camera's
Yeah,
still
my
on.
camera's on. Yeah,
Like
no
a
problem.
keyboard.
Still
Was
here.
that a Godzilla attack? Yeah.
Something in the garden.
That is 46 divided by 5, which is 9.2, I believe, which is one of the biggest highest scores we've had for quite a while, I think, for such a group of people. So that definitely makes Godzilla Minus One a gigantic monster hit. Right, brilliant. We're going to move on to another new film that's out in cinemas at the moment, but you probably have to be quick to catch it. It's probably on its way out, and that is Femme. Andy, I think you might be the only person who's seen this. Is that right?
Possibly.
I think so.
Okay.
So it's over to you.
Gorgeous George MacKay stars in a film which essentially is about revenge. Here's a clip.
Is that a bloke?
He's a big man in his high heels.
Fucking faggots, man.
Don't bother messaging me later when you're looking for a dick to suck.
Hey, do you not know each other? Oh, God, turn around if you're a fucking man.
You're letting them win.
How you want to deal with that?
So, Andy.
Yes, this is a film co-produced by, amongst others, the BBC. Nathan Lloyd Stewart Jarrett, sorry, with the hyphens between the Stewart and the Jarrett. He plays a transgender singer in a nightclub. One night after he's been performing, he goes to buy some drink in a shop and is attacked because he is still in his costume by a group of lads who think of themselves as very butch, very macho, and very, anti-gay and so on. And he gets attacked, he gets beaten up to the extent that he does not perform again on stage for the rest of the movie, right to the end. One of the people who's attacking, in fact, the main attacker is played by George MacKay, who it turns out is attacking him just to impress his mates, but is actually covering up his own gayness. He doesn't want his mates to know that he's gay, so he's picking on another gay person, beating up that gay person, so his mate thinks he's okay. What happens then is that the Nathan Lloyd Stewart Jordan character is back out of drag. He's back dressed as a bloke. He runs into George MacKay, and the two of them start dating. He realises very quickly that George MacKay is the guy who's beaten him up, so he starts dating him in order to get revenge on him. He builds this relationship up, builds it up. He tells George how wonderful it is, how lovely it is, how great the is, with the intention of dumping him at the end of the day in an act of revenge. I thought this was a really powerful drama. It's got a lot to say about gay rights. It's got a lot to say about transgender issues. It's got a lot to say about society's attitudes towards people who may be a little bit different. It's very unusual to see George MacKay in a role such as this, where he is playing very much against type, but does so brilliantly. There are scenes involving drugs and male nudity, homosexuality, homoerotica, and so on. But I thought the basic story of somebody who'd been beaten up because they are gay getting revenge on the person who beat them up, who also happens to be gay, was quite intriguing. It was a lovely twist on things. It's well acted. It's worth seeing. If you don't get to see it in the cinema, as you said, Bob, you're not going to lose out on a great deal by seeing it on the small screen. You know, it's one of those films, either or. But it's a powerful, intriguing, relevant story about gay and transgender issues and revenge.
Okay. We were, Andy and I were lucky enough to see George MacKay on Monday night at the BFI as part of the Mark Commode in 3D thing, talking about this film.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he's got a kind of a full body tattoo, including a tattoo all around his neck, and he had to have that put on and had to keep it on for 4 days at a time, he said. So he was basically walking around his local neighbourhood and going into the corner shop dressed as this with this great big neck tattoo that he had to explain to everybody he met and so on.
It's quite a violent. It's a violent film. It is a film that is distressing, but it is a film that is trying to say something to our world about the society in which we live. Definitely, they've definitely got a message in mind, but that doesn't spoil the drama, which is why I thought it was so good. It's really well written. Good.
Okay, score on the door for
I gave it an 8. I gave it an 8
out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just based on Andy's review of Femme, that is a Flickering Dreams hit. Again. 2 hits in a row. It can't last. Right.
It won't last.
It won't last. Okay. It's time for a bit of this.
Here we go.
Okay, so I think it's game 6 in Dr. Bob's movie montage mystery. You need a piece of paper for this, Dan, if you've got one.
Right, okay. No, but I've got my phone, I can just type.
Okay, so in this game, I'm going to show you 5 stills from a motion picture. The motion picture is picked at random from the top 1,000 box office films. So it basically could be anything. And if you manage to guess it...
And normally is.
And if you manage to guess it on the first picture, you get 50 points. If you manage to get it on the second picture, you get 40 points. And so on down to the 5th picture, which you get 10 points for. And but it's important to note, isn't it, Andy? If you have a guess on one of the goes and you get it wrong, that is minus 10 for each.
Is that how it works?
Wrong guess. That's how it works, Andy. That's how you ended up with a score of minus 50 or something. Yes.
It's too zillion, right?
So here we go, and this is the first picture for this round. So, anybody wanting to write something down? Kind of looks familiar, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's really familiar.
It's not Aliens.
No.
Okay.
I always go with Aliens on this.
Yeah. So, if you want to write something down. But you might want to wait till the second picture, which is this one.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Ooh.
No, I don't like this.
Oh, I think
I don't like this.
I think Dan might have a clue.
No, I don't want to say it yet. But I'm going to write it down just in case.
Oh, don't.
Oh,
yeah, don't write anything down.
Oh,
If you're not sure,
No.
Okay.
I'll give you the minus points.
Oh, well,
No,
yeah.
no,
If you think you know what
go
it
down
is,
to minus
write it down. If you know what it is, write it down.
But don't say what
Right.
it is anyway, because people are playing along at home, as I know. Aren't you, Albatross? Yes, you are. And you're the leader, Albatross, on YouTube.
What is that?
Okay. Here is the third picture.
Oh.
I've written something down.
It's lovely playing this game, looking at all your confused faces.
As long as Scott doesn't beat me, we're fine. I'm a very sore loser.
Okay. Anybody going to write anything down? Write it down.
I have written something down.
We're going on to picture number 4. I think this could be a giveaway.
Yes, I think I've got it. Yeah, I've got it.
Is it?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yes, I got it. Got it on picture 3. Yes. Do it. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, boss. I did pray about this.
I think. I mean, isn't it true that if you pray about the wrong things, you're going to get struck by lightning or something? Andy?
Not necessarily,
anyway.
No.
I've got the DVD case here.
Here
just in
comes picture number 5.
Ooh, yeah.
Come on, that's a giveaway.
That's a giveaway. That is a giveaway.
Should have got it after the second one.
Yeah, the second one threw me. Second one threw me at first.
Yes. So excited. Made my Christmas.
Yeah, I took that opportunity. I wrote down my answer, and I'd taken the opportunity to Google whilst we wait, just so that I'm not stressed.
Which one did you get it after, Emma? Did you get it?
Number 5.
Okay, yeah. Scott, Scott, please tell me you got it.
So.
Oh dear.
So Dan says he can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
And maybe we can even see him on the podcast, but we'll wait and see. Okay. Any answers from any of you?
Yeah, I've got it.
Show me your piece of paper.
I've got the DVD here.
After picture number 3, I wrote down The Fugitive.
The Fugitive, yes. And
I played it.
Yep, I put the Fugitive as well. I was looking up the DVD case.
You didn't write anything, so Scott 0.
I would just like to say I literally took a guess after seeing Harrison Ford because I had no idea.
Fugitive is one of my favourite Harrison Ford films, but I always think the real star of that film is Tommy Lee Jones. He's just brilliant as a detective hunting him. If you haven't seen it, honestly, go watch The Fugitive now. It's a brilliant film. Based on an old TV series.
So that was the movie quiz for this week. We had a slight technical issue there, so we've had to dial in. So we're probably in slightly different places on the screen. But the results of that issue of the game was that Andy actually won that edition with 30 points. Emma...
I'd like to thank my mother. I'd like to thank my father.
Dan came in with an honourable second place with 20 points. Emma had 10 points, and Scott didn't actually answer, so he scored 0 points in that one. And that gives us the rankings, which are still very close for the season. We've got Emma still in the lead on 100 points. Scott in second place, but joint second place now with Andy on 80 points. And Dan, who's just started the game, first edition, has
I was going to say, I've
points.
got no chance.
Well, yeah.
Trust me, Dan, you have.
Yeah, you do. So we're moving on back to the films now, and a film which actually got released today in the UK. I think it's only Emma and myself that have seen this one, given that Andy's screening today got cancelled by Cineworld, which he's probably very grumpy about. Emma, do you want to introduce Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom for us?
Sure. So our hero returns as Black Manta makes another bid to avenge his father's death. But this time he's going for something far more apocalyptic. Here's a clip.
He must be stopped, or a global meltdown is imminent.
I think I know someone who might be able to help us. Ooh, you look rough. Good job, little brother. High five. Do not call me brother.
Okay, Emma. Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, Aquaman 2, huh?
I mean,
so
it's set in the sea, so that's the same
is
world
set in the sea.
as the Meg is set in. I mean, you must love it.
Well, I wish the Meg had come along and eaten them all. So this is the most Marvel DC film I have seen in a long time. Just all the way through, I was basically just reminded of different Marvel films. So Arthur Curry teams up with his brother Orm, and they might as well be Thor and Loki. The amount of scenes that look like the fight in Asgard on the bridge is unbelievable. Then throw in
fact, he's even referenced as Loki at one point, isn't he?
He is.
Oh,
yes.
you're kidding me.
No, yeah, it does get thrown in there, along with a Harry Potter reference, which was just weird.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah, he said something about him going back to Azkaban, and I was like, oh, Jesus.
Warner Brothers.
It's rather frustrating. Yeah, you throw in a bit of Black Panther, and Aquaman pretending he's Iron Man, and you've got a film. So don't bother going to the cinema, just watch all of those, and we're done. I just don't know where to start with it. I could rant about this for longer than the film, which felt incredibly long. But I mean, it's just another Aquaman, isn't it? It's not anything special, this one.
I mean, I have to say, the first Aquaman, I didn't see it at the cinema. I saw it after the event, and I was so utterly bored with it. I didn't even bother to write a review, and I hardly ever do that for a film. I just couldn't be asked to do it. So I went into this with a very negative attitude. I have to say, for the most part, I thought it was terrible. I mean, Amber Heard was in it. I had a feeling, given that she's in the trailer for like 17 nanoseconds, that she might have been written out the whole project, but she actually had quite a large piece in it. And she's okay, right? She's okay. She's fine.
But it does feel like almost like they tagged her in. Like either they got rid of an absolute crap ton of footage of her in it, or they were like, "Oh, we should really put her in it, otherwise we'll be controversial as well if we take her out."
Yeah. I mean, I like Jason Momoa as an actor. I think he's got charisma and character, but a lot of his on-screen banter here just felt cringe-inducingly false, and it didn't barely generated a single laugh in the cinema. And I was actually in a packed screening. I was actually quite surprised how many people were in my lunchtime screening to see this, and there wasn't a titter amongst the audience. There was just one or two lines which made me smile and made a guy next to me laugh once. I mean, the MacGuffin material in this thing is a mineral called Richalcum, which I can only assume that the writers had friends called Rich and Al, and thought it would be funny to stick their names together and put cum at the end of it, because it's just like unobtainium, right?
I was just thinking unobtainium.
Yeah. It's basically unobtainium, and this unobtainium it's rapidly causing global warming. So it's got this kind of sickly global warming type of message running through the film. And those were not the only films that got mentioned and ripped off in this. Martin Short is actually the voice behind what is absolute carbon copy of a watery Jabba the Hutt.
It took me ages to work out that was him.
It's a scene absolutely ripped out of Return of the Jedi, down to the dancers and the alien singers and everything. It's just a criminal rip-off. There's a rip-off of the very final cliffhanger bit of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade towards the end of it. And we even seem to go to Pandora at one point in the plot. Right? We go to a kingdom that looks just like Pandora. Right? One of the fun voices in it, though, was the unmistakable John Rhys Davies as a lobster in it. So I would, and as soon as you hear John Rhys Davies, right, you know, very dangerous. You go first, yes, and which you've had him say to you on the phone, haven't you, Andy?
Yes, I had a conversation. I got to interview him, and he said that to me down the line. That's very dangerous. You go. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I was on the phone with him.
You're a lucky man, right?
Yeah.
The only thing which this film had going for it at all for me was the finale fight, which, while it was preposterous, did at least marginally entertain me. Because there's a child at risk in it, and I thought that was kind of at least marginally entertaining, albeit a bit too easy in the end.
One very important piece of information, guys. Is there an end credit sequence?
There is a mid-credit sequence, which is actually quite funny.
But
not
also,
amusing.
It's not worth staying for.
So this is said to be the end of the DC extended universe. Does it feel like an ending, or does it just feel like
it
a
feels like
mid-tier
it should
entry?
be an ending?
Right.
It feels like it should be ending.
It genuinely, like, all the things that happen at the end, you could see it having another film, I think.
Okay.
It doesn't deliberately set it up, but there are those things there that make you think there could be.
Yeah. So I've given this one a 4 out of 10. Emma?
Yeah, I went 4 as well.
Oh, there we go. We agree on a score. So that's 4.
My only redeeming feature of the film is that I think you could make a drinking game out of every time you stop and think about Patrick Wilson's hair. Is it CGI or a really bad wig? Take a drink. You'll be hammered within 10 minutes.
Okay. That's one to remember when it comes on DVD or Blu-ray or streaming. Not that we're going to buy this one. Okay, so unfortunately, Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom gets a Flickering Dreams score of 4.0, which makes it a big soggy miss. Okay, next up, we're going to look at a film on streaming. I'm not sure whether this did actually have a cinema release. This is Chicken Run: Dawn of the Nugget. Scott, do you want to introduce that to us?
Sure. So, long-awaited sequel to the film Chicken Run, which was essentially The Great Escape with animated chickens. This is Mission Impossible with animated chickens. Here's a clip.
Life doesn't get better than this. We've put the past behind us. We have Molly to think about now.
What a bonny wee hen!
I made her a bicycle.
Oh, what a lovely thought.
Scott, do you want to start on this one? What did you make of this?
Yeah. So, first of all, like a lot of Aardman products, brilliant title. I think that's really funny from when I first heard this was going to be a project, so I'm all in on that. I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the original Chicken Run. I think I saw it when I was obviously a lot younger, and I think back in those days, I wasn't a fan of that style of animation. That claymation thing just wasn't a thing that I was into. So I never really appreciated it as much as I probably should have. This one, I think I have grown, I've matured, I've learned as I've got more into movies to appreciate different styles, and I loved this one. I thought it was sweet, it was funny, you've got great family entertainment all around. The plot, relatively simple. Essentially, Rocky, who's our lead from the first film, has now had a daughter called Molly. Molly is an adventurous little chick who ventures off and finds herself getting captured. And essentially, we have a action plot that involves a bunch of the family and friends trying to break into a chicken factory to rescue young Molly. And so there's lots of visual gags, lots of written gags as well. I think it plays up the voice cast incredibly. I could be here all day if I start naming all the famous people that are in this movie, but if you just go into IMDb, there's lists and lists of people you know. Mm-hmm. This was one where, as I said, because I wasn't hugely into the first one, I went into this thinking, okay, I'll see what it's like, but not huge expectations. And I came away just thinking that was really wholesome. It's the kind of film that this time of year you could literally put in front of the kids, put in front of the grandparents. Everyone could watch this film together and have a good time. I think that the characters are clever in the way that they represent all different types of society, where we've got a lot of variance. I'll be honest, some of the accents for a group of chickens that are supposed to be from the same place, there's a lot of various accents going on there. But it's a kids' film. Let's not quibble too much about that. One thing I had a slight issue with, and I knew it kind of going in, was I did miss Mel Gibson as the voice of Rocky. He was replaced by Zachary Levi because of all of Mel Gibson's issues that he's made himself quite controversial, and so I guess they don't want him in a kids' film anymore. But there was something about Levi's voice coming out of that character that just didn't quite feel right. So I did miss that. But on the whole, yeah, lovely, sweet family film. Enjoyed it.
Good. Okay. Scott. No, let's go. Andy. Sorry.
I was a massive fan of the original. I mean, I think the original is in my top 5 animated films of all time. So I went into this with high hopes and I was not disappointed. I think it's a very clever twist. As you say, Scott, it's Chicken Run does Mission Impossible. I loved all the high-tech gadgetry, the stuff that was guarding the chicken farm, the robots and everything else. I thought it was very, very funny. It's the kind of film you need to see perhaps 2 or 3 times in order to fully appreciate all the visual gags that are going on. We should add there's a 19-minute documentary on the making of the film, also on Netflix, which is well worth watching. And when you realise that films like this take 6-7 years, to make, and it's been over 20 years we've been waiting for the sequel, and yet it just felt as fresh and as original and as lovely as the first one. And you could sit and watch them back to back, really, with the voice cast problems, obviously. But it didn't really bother me because the story was so good. The animation is so spectacular. The jokes are laugh out loud funny. And the whole production is beautifully done, as you would expect from Aardman. So I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, same sort of sentiments. I just really love Aardman humour. And like I say, it's just genuinely wholesome. And as Scott said, anyone can watch this film. I don't think there's anything to be offended about. It's just good fun. Now, I have probably only seen the original Chicken Run once, and I don't remember watching it. So that probably means I watched it 20 years ago.
I'm the same, to be honest. Yeah.
I absolutely loved just the dynamic between Molly and her little friend she finds when they're both the same goal. They want to find out where everyone's going and they want to join them and have all the fun, and then obviously what happens inside the chicken farm. And I just loved the dynamic they had, and like you say, it's a Mission Impossible kind of action adventure chicken film. And yeah, I just really enjoyed myself. It was just really lovely to watch.
Great. And Dan?
So I'm a huge fan of the original Chicken Run as well. I saw it as a kid. It came out when I was 9 years old. And there was a certain...
I feel so
darkness...
old.
Oh, I know. There's a certain darkness to that original film, which I really quite appreciated. There's a death at the beginning of the original film, which really struck me when I first saw it. And I think that's something that was missing in this film, was that darkness. Although the guy who directed this, Sam Fell, was the co-director of a film from 2017 called Kubo and the Two Strings, which was an amazing stop-motion fantasy film. And I think he's brought some of that darkness over into Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, particularly in a sequence where a character meets their end in a very quick and rather disturbing way, which had me both gasping and laughing at the same time, because I thought, oh, okay, they've just done that in a kid's film. For me, it's fine. It's not top tier Aardman to me. This isn't Curse of the Were-Rabbit or the first Chicken Run. It's fine. I didn't love it. I laughed a few times. I missed the earthy textures of Tweedy's farm. I missed the Great Escape edge to it. I think there's been so many variant rip-offs of Mission Impossible, that kind of thing. I just loved the literal down-to-earth, the feeling of the first Chicken Run. That's the one I'll always go back to. I think Dawn of the Nugget is a fun film. It's got some good laughs in it. But it's not one that I'm going to come back to year after year like I do the original Chicken Run. But yeah, that one scene where the chicken goes to the heavens was funny. That was very dark and humorous. That was.
Just for your
that was very funny.
Just for your information, Dad, I was 38 when the original came out.
Oh well, there you go. There you go.
The time is an illusion, Andy. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that scene where all the chickens kind of go to this funland theme park, I thought was very clever because it really plays to that idea about what's it? Free range.
Oh,
free range chicken farming and keep your chickens happy while they're going around. And this takes it to the natural conclusion that, well, let's keep the chickens really, really happy until the very last moment, right?
It sort of becomes a zombie movie at one point. It's really strange. It becomes Dawn of the Nugget. I think that's what they're sort of referring to, Dawn of the Dead. But with with the wide eyes and things, it reminded me there was an animated film that came out for Netflix this year called Nimona, which was a wonderful hand-drawn film. And that also had characters who would go crazy with giant wide eyes. And I'm a sucker for animation like that with old Simpsons where Homer will go completely wall-eyed when he's really into something. I love that. And when the chickens do that in Dawn of the Nugget, that was very funny to me. But yeah, it's a film that references zombie films, it references Mission Impossible. It's got a great dark heritage with the director, as I say, making Kubo and the Two Strings and working for Leica. I just wish I liked it more. I think it's fine, but it's not one that I will go back to.
Okay. I mean, I do normally not like stop motion animation films. I like Scott. I've never particularly liked them. And unlike Scott, I've never grown up to really like them. I mean, for me, compared to Marcel and the Shell with Shoes On from earlier in the year, or even Del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh, Scott!
This was much more my cup of tea, I have to say, as a film.
That's it.
I much more preferred Marcel the Cell with Shoes On. Much more preferred that to this.
Not me. I think you're in the minority there.
That's fine.
I think we featured that in our first podcast. One of the very
was one of the early ones, certainly. Yeah.
It got a mauling. So in terms of scores, I mean, you could convince. I laughed a lot. Some of the jokes, I thought it was very funny, and you could convince me to go to a 7 on this one. Dan, what would you go for?
I think I gave this a 5.5.
Ooh, okay. Oh God.
Okay, I'll give it a 5 because I think it's perfectly in the middle. I think it's perfectly in the middle. 5.
Emma.
I think it's a 6.
Ooh, right, it's not looking good. Andy.
I'm giving it an 8.
8. And Scott.
This is going to be close. I'm giving it a 7.
7. So 15, 21, 26, 33 divided by 5 is not going to do it.
No, it's not going to do
it. That's a 6.6 for Flickering Dreams score for Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. So that is a marginal miss, our second of the evening in terms of films. Okay. Well, so close one. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. Right, let's take a little look if these clips are going to work at this week's top 10 in the UK and Ireland. Oh, that did work this week. Right, okay. So
wow,
this is the top 10 at the moment. And no surprise, actually, because when I went to see Godzilla Minus One, I went into the loo before going in, and the loo was... Clearly, Wonka had just kicked out because there were kids skipping down the hall and whistling tunes and generally, clearly having loved Wonka. And it's clearly still packing out cinemas It's made 18.5 million quid in the last 2 weeks of release, so firmly at the top. And to be honest, I can see it staying there all the way through Christmas. Can't see anything knocking it off. Second place, we got Godzilla Minus One. We were just talking about. New in. It's made close to £1 million, which is not magnificent. I don't think many people go to the cinema in the week this week before Christmas. They've got too much other stuff on.
I think this will have a challenge as well, being that it's subtitled.
Yeah, I think so. Third place, we got The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is really doing very well, isn't it?
I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. Ow!
It's still third
Why?
place, right? And it's
I think it's just
nearly
IP, isn't
16
it?
million.
I think it is. I think you're right, Scott, but it's a turgid film. Certainly for the last third.
It's not good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Fourth place, we've got Wish from Disney. Not Disney's best. Not Disney's worst either, I have to say. Fifth place, Napoleon. These haven't really changed very much. Sixth place, Saltburn. And seventh place, the Hindi film Animal. Those are long-term entries in the chart, chugging along. And number 8, we've got a new entry, which is the Royal Opera House, the Nutcracker, which was a special event cinema film. You notice there it's nearly made as much as Godzilla did, but it's its second week in the chart. So there you go. And second week in the chart. Oh, well, that could be the top 20, right? First time in the top 10. And at number 9, we've got Elf, the 20th anniversary. And at number 10, we've got Home Alone. It's 263rd week in the chart. So that is the top 10 for this week. Our final film we're looking at this evening is a new science fiction film called The Shift. Andy, I think you're the only one who's seen this. It is showing in my Cineworld, but only on very occasionally.
Yeah, there's been 2 screenings a day here in Milton Keynes of The Shift all week. This really appealed to me. This is a really unusual piece of science fiction. It's about a down on his luck businessman who gets drawn into a parallel world and is challenged about everything he's always believed. Have we got a clip, Bob?
Hopefully.
Here it is.
So the idea is what we have some fun and maybe we kiss.
Hopefully.
5th date, we are really a part of each other's lives. It's a real thing now. You know, there's the bad thing that happens.
Wait, hold. What bad thing?
Hey, you're okay.
Okay, Andy.
So as I say,
that looks interesting.
Yeah, it's a really unusual piece of sci-fi. Christoph Polar is down to a businessman, gets drawn into a parallel world. Everything he's ever believed about life, the universe, and everything is challenged. He has to fight to get back to his own reality and back to his wife, who in the parallel world that he's fallen into doesn't even know him or acknowledge him. I think it's a different take on the multiverse. I really enjoyed it. It co-stars Sean Ashton, so you've got to have a bit of Sam at Christmas. It's a really well-made, really solid science fiction film. The one thing that I will say, and of course this is why I got sent a copy by the Film Angel Studios, as you saw there, the central character is a Christian. He believes in prayer. But when he's drawn into this parallel universe, everything he's believed about the world is challenged to his very core. I thought it was a very powerful piece of science fiction. It's directed very imaginatively by Brock Hazley, who's just directing a second ever film. There's some great action. It's very tense. And if you like your science fiction, if you like multiverse, but if you like your science fiction, thought-provoking science fiction, go see The Shift. It's really good.
Good stuff. Score out of 10?
I gave it an 8 because it's a very compelling film.
Okie dokie. So again, just based on Andy's view, that is a Flickering Dreams score of 8, making The Shift a hit for us. Okay, that's it for this week. Other than any other business, It is obviously Christmas, so I would like to wish all our viewers and listeners a very happy Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or a very happy holiday if you don't. And we are, of course, heading towards the new year. And what we shall be doing on Flickering Dreams before the new year, or shortly afterwards, depending on how we can organise it, is we will be picking our collective top 10 films of the year, and also our 5 turkeys of the year, if we can get to any sort of agreement on what those are. So watch out for those special editions of Flickering Dreams as we get to the end of the year. Also, in any other business, Boxing Day is obviously a traditional day in the UK for releasing new films. And we've got a number of new films coming out on Boxing Day. We've got Michael Mann's Ferrari, which I still haven't seen, although it's been at a number of preview screenings. Has anybody seen Ferrari? No, not yet. Nobody, right? Okay. We've got Next Goal Wins, which is Taika Waititi's comedy.
Oh, I hope it's good. I hope
it's good. It's exceptionally good. It's really good. Yeah, I loved it.
Oh, okay. So that's looks like a thumbs up to go and see that, but we'll review that one after Christmas as well. And we've also got a raunchy comedy called Anyone But You, which has a feeling of a bit like No Hard Feelings to me.
We've also got the latest Studio Ghibli film out on, if I pronounce that right.
We do.
Which I was supposed to see yesterday at a press screening, and I couldn't get to it. My car broke down. But The Boy and the Heron, which is number 1 in the States, I think, at the moment. So look out for that on Boxing. That's Boxing Day as well.
Boxing Day as well, yeah. And January the 1st, we've got a number of new films as well. We've got One Life with Anthony Hopkins, which I saw last week and I thought was very, very good. Again, we'll review that in the new year. And also Priscilla, which I saw last night.
I saw it.
And I thought it was a very well-made film. Not particularly festive, I have to say. Like a slow-mo car crash, but there you go. What do you expect with the life of Elvis? So that's all coming up, and we will be reviewing those in the new year. Also, I have to say, coming out with an unlimited screening, a preview screening on January the 8th, is a film called The Boys in the Boat, directed by George Clooney. And fingers crossed, I'm in it.
We should look out for
that. I have a starring role in that film, but we will see. We will see. Okay. Hope you all have a very happy Christmas. Thanks for joining us. My thanks to Emma, Andy, Scott, and particularly Dan for joining us on the first time. And indeed the other Dan on my screen. So hopefully one of those will feature in the final video, but we'll see. Okay, thank you very much, guys. You're very, very welcome, and hope you come again, Dan.
Oh, I'd love
have
to.
Have a very happy Christmas to all of you.
Happy Christmas, everybody. God bless.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.